This is your daily dose of all things royal. Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. Today's video is going to be on the lighter side, looking at this week's tabloid covers because Meghan, once again, is across all of them. Now, I picked these two tabloids out because in reading these articles, you get the feeling that one is coming from Prince Harry's camp and the other one is coming from Meghan Markle's camp. I think many of us have noticed that there's unusually a lot of talk and noise around Harry and Meghan being possibly separated or living separate lives. I also believe that these articles are being put out now to lay the groundwork and set the stage for what we all know is inevitably coming, which is a divorce. I think when you look at how everything has played out and didn't work out for them, I think now whatever this mission is might be winding down. That's just my suspicion. So let's take a look at these articles to see what you think. Let's begin with Harry and Meghan 24 nights apart from the United States. Now, one would think that it would be Meghan who was the one who gave this story to In Touch Weekly, but I think that's not the case here. See if you think this is Harry's PR team again. And rightfully so, they would have to cover the United States because he lives here to continue improving his brand and image if they're going to try and welcome him back into the royal fold. I mean, it really does feel like it's going in this direction. The article begins, "Her arrival surprised everyone. I'm just grateful for everything they do." Meghan Markle, in a red-hot Carolina Herrera dress, gushed at the Children's Hospital LA Gala on October 5th, adding that she was happy to be here to support. But according to sources, that wasn't her only reason for going. She only showed up for the red carpet. She didn't even go into the gala. She just went home, a source says of Meghan, who had been on her own with kids Archie, 5, and little Betty, 3, for 2 weeks at that point, with Prince Harry on a trip to New York, London, and South Africa. It was almost like she was showing him what he was missing. Meghan's surprise appearance and Harry's lengthy absence only intensified rumblings of a royal divorce. They spent about 24 nights apart, estimates the source. Whatever is going on, it's clear they're leading separate lives. Oh boy, I believe that this is Harry now making Meghan look like the loser that she really is. Not only did this article mention that she showed up and didn't go in, but also the thirstiness of Meghan going on this carpet to show Harry what he's missing. So I think in this way, he's saying, you know what? You're not such a prize. And here, I'm living my best life now without you. In other words, getting to the point where he's saying, Meghan, you're the problem. Now, one more point that I want to make before I continue is that what I'm noticing with these articles is that more and more they are not referring to Meghan as the Duchess of Sussex. So could that be a sign that things are in the works to have her title stripped and maybe Harry's title stripped? You know, at this point, they might as well keep the titles because who's going to want these titles after these two are finished with it? Anyhow, continuing on, it says, Harry was in his element. After rubbing elbows with Queen Matilda of Belgium at a September 22nd World Health Organization dinner during a few days stopover in NYC to meet with his various charities, the Prince, 40, jetted to London for the Wellchild Awards on September 30th. From the moment he arrived in the reception room, he had an infectious energy about him, and there were no airs and graces at all. Royal watcher Sophie Vokes Dungeon reported of his upbeat behavior at the event, which he had previously attended with Meghan, 43. Harry's next stop, his beloved Africa. Arriving in Lesotho on October 2nd, he attended a campfire event with the co-founder of his Santabali charity, Prince Sieso, who called him his brother. The next day, he met with Prime Minister Sam Matekane. Lesotho will always be a second home for Prince Harry, Matekane said, and we are forever grateful for his dedication. After trips to Johannesburg and Cape Town, where his Spencer cousins live, Harry finally headed home in mid-October. The Whirlwind Mini Tour was, by all accounts, a massive success. It was a reminder of how much people really do love Harry, says the source. He has spent his whole life training for this kind of work, and everything seems to go so much more smoothly when Meghan isn't with him. She likely wouldn't have enjoyed at least one leg of the trip, according to some experts. He comes to Britain with no fuss, but she's struggling in popularity in the United Kingdom, longtime royal photographer Arthur Edwards told The Sun. They seem to be doing things separately now. She's got her program and he's got his. Royal expert Jenny Bond agreed. They're going separate ways to an extent. Hopefully, you picked up on the fact that this is glowing up Prince Harry, but casting a very negative shadow over Meghan as being the one who is the buzzkill. This didn't happen a year ago or when they came over here. It was always Meghan being seen in this positive light and could do no wrong, and then putting whatever blame on the royal family or even onto Harry for not pulling his weight as the so-called prince husband. Something's very different, not to mention they mentioned two royal reporters in this article, which they rarely do in American magazines. They've never spent this much time apart. They really do seem to be very different people on very different paths right now, says the source, noting that Meghan is focusing on launching her American Riviera orchard brand and Netflix cooking show, while Harry is leaning into the charity work that has always been his wheelhouse. Well, first, I don't think that they have been together for a while now. I think Harry is at this point where he just wants to go back to his old life. And this is what we're in the process of seeing and the groundwork being laid here for him to go back to the UK. This is what it all feels like is happening. After 6 years of marriage, it's always been them against the world, says the source. But now that the brouhaha over Megxit, when they stepped down as senior working royals in 2020, and his explosive memoir Spare has died down, they're realizing they have different goals for the future. He's always taken his wife's side against the firm, but in truth, Harry misses his home and family, especially his father. Though Charles didn't make time to see his son while he was in London, the king's cancer battle has made Harry more determined than he's been in years to repair their relationship, says the source. He wants to make amends with his father before it's too late. So far, Meghan has always been in the way. It's unlikely she will ever be welcomed back by her in-laws, especially William and Kate, says the source. Most wives in that situation would consider it a betrayal if her husband reconnected with family that had shunned his wife. Hence, her big outing without him. She doesn't need him to make headlines anymore, says the source. It's getting to a point where Harry will have to make another choice: his wife or his family. You notice this, folks, that all these articles don't talk about what's going to happen to the children if, let's say, Harry goes back to the UK. They don't talk about Harry missing his children for 24 days, being separated. I find this so bizarre that the media blatantly ignores this. It's very interesting that this article is very similar to the article that I covered earlier this week from Closer magazine in the UK. Could they have taken this story from this magazine? Maybe. But what's abundantly clear here is that this is a campaign to support Harry. I feel like Harry has started the process, and what we're seeing here is what Diana did when they were about to announce that they were separated and then eventually divorced. But obviously, we know that this is all theater and a distraction. Do we think any of this is true? I personally don't. This is all to distract us and keep our eyes away from the things that they don't want us to be talking about, such as Diddy, such as the WEF taking over the world, such as undermining our constitutional rights. None of this should be taken seriously. Is it coincidence now that an article from the UK to counter the article that came out in Closer this week is this one, coming now from Meghan's side or Meghan's team in this psychological operation? Now, if you've seen my series on the psychological warfare, remember one of the tactics that these two use is the tactic of using counter narratives. So obviously, like clockwork, we have this article indicating why Kate's coming between Harry and Meghan. Does anybody believe this shit? No, we don't. But Obviously, this is all part of this framework that they have been using. This article is really short, but it's filled with mechanisms that you will be able to pick out for yourself. As it says here, they say that comparison is the thief of joy. So spare a thought for Meghan Markle, who currently feels she is being unfairly compared with the sister in law she'll never live up to. And while Meghan has grown used to being pitted against Kate Middleton on a global stage, this time it's personal. According to insiders, as Prince Harry continues his campaign to integrate himself back into the royal family, he's increasing his tendencies to gush about Kate to Meghan, but with the latter feeling more of a pariah than ever in the eyes of the palace. We're told she can't help taking it personally, which is putting even more strain on their marriage. Oh, poor Meghan. Wait for it, folks. One of the reasons why Harry and Meghan will be divorcing, of course, is going to be put on Catherine. They're going to blame Catherine for breaking up their marriage. I can see the headlines now. This is where they're going, or this is where Meghan is going, because she's such a victim. Not a day that goes by where Harry doesn't sing the praises of Kate or talk about how amazing she's been going through her illness, says an insider close to the Sussexes, who, like the rest of the world, watched Kate's emotional video last month, in which she announced she had finally completed her chemotherapy treatment and was slowly getting back to royal duties. That's totally fine by Meghan. She's just as relieved that Kate's doing better. Oh, sure you are, Meghan. But that doesn't mean she's got amnesia over everything that happened. The way Kate treated her and made her feel like an outsider isn't something she can just forget. It was incredibly painful, so to have her husband going on about how perfect Kate is and how she should take a page out of her handbook really stings. One particular bone of contention, which is apparently sparking new rows between Harry and Meghan, is the fact that he's made such a turnaround in his attitude towards his family. When they announced their decision to step down as senior royals in 2020, Harry and Meghan presented a totally united front before doubling down on their unity in joint interviews in which they expressed their mutual resentment towards the palace's treatment of them. Meghan accused Kate of making her cry amid tensions over Princess Charlotte's bridesmaid's dress before her wedding in 2018, while Harry then took their grievances further in his 2023 memoir, accusing his brother of physically attacking him and adding that Catherine had displayed icy and standoffish behavior towards Meghan. However, over the past year, amid Catherine and King Charles's respective cancer battles, there has been a noticeable turn in the tide. The Sussexes have quietened their complaints, while Harry has reportedly been upping his efforts to reach out to his estranged relatives. Let me go ahead and pause for a second. After reading that and their summary of everything that this couple have done to the royal family and we have witnessed, how ridiculous is all of this? Now all of a sudden we have turned the tide and now Harry's trying to get back home. I truly believe it has everything to do with what their mission was in the first place when they came over here to the United States in 2020, which was to go ahead and help the Biden regime get elected into office, as well as beyond this censorship campaign in order to drive and push regulation. And being that they got called out and they didn't see Elon Musk buying Twitter, I think that foiled a lot of what they were planning on doing in clamping down on free speech. Also, Harry is not going to be protected here in the United States if Donald Trump gets into office, right? There's a lot of stuff that these two have done and have been involved with that I believe is catching up with them. Hence the reason why this little coward is running back to the UK, making it look like he misses home so much. He misses his family. But I digress. Getting back to this article, it says Harry and Meghan have also ostensibly made the decision to separate their professional lives in response to what was, by all accounts, a massive crash in their popularity. Harry has recently made several solo trips to the UK and has also visited New York, Lesotho, and South Africa for public engagements. Meghan has also branched out alone, attending the LA Children's Hospital Gala on her own in LA earlier this month. But while they're keeping up appearances and refusing to respond to rumors that their personal lives are becoming as separate as their professional lives, insiders say Harry's change in tack towards the palace has started to drive a wedge between them. What's more, the royal family's birthday tribute to Harry last month, in which they posted a beaming close up picture of him, has only inflamed things further. After all, it escaped no one's attention, not least Meghan's, that she had been sitting next to Harry when the picture was taken, but hadn't been included in the post. In response to the allegations, they cut Meghan out of the photo. The palace confirmed the image was not altered and had been used in the format provided. But as our source explains, that hasn't stopped Meghan wondering where she fits into the frame. Nowhere, Meghan. And Harry's obsequiousness, oh, that's a word, towards Catherine and the rest of the family is only making things worse. We're told Meghan absolutely wants Harry on better terms with his family, but what she isn't willing to accept is the way he's suddenly putting Catherine and the rest of them on this pedestal. It's such a shift in attitude, which is why she's so triggered. All this is, when you see these kind of articles, is there for distraction. None of this, in what we're being told, is actually real, in my opinion, based off of all the media that has flooded over the last 6 years of Meghan and Harry and their conflicting stories. It's all a part of this disinformation campaign that they have been running. And I hope you see this. I hope you see how they are framing narratives and how they're countering narratives. And nobody really knows exactly what is the truth because there's so many stories that are being put out and none of them really make sense. Like, does anyone believe that they bought a house in Portugal? No. If you've been following me and watching this channel, you most likely have come to the realization that Meghan and Harry and whoever these people are behind them are controlling the various narratives that we are allowed to see and put out by them. Clearly, you see conflicting stories and nothing is really making any kind of sense. And I believe that that is to distract us and to have us go over here as opposed to looking over there. When we're talking about Archwell and the missing money, we also have the Sussex Squad cyber terrorists that are being looked into at this moment. We also have the Diddy tapes. I mean, there's a lot of things that they don't want us talking about. Hence the reason why we're seeing this flood of bullshit being put out there. And I do believe that Harry is running back home to hide. Now, I'm just throwing this idea out there. I don't have any sort of backing for it. I'm just thinking out loud is, could all of this rebranding and Harry positioning himself back into this image of him dedicating his life to service be a last-ditch attempt to get back his HRH? Literally pull it out of abeyance so he can go ahead and be protected. I mean, do we even know if these titles really were put into abeyance? I mean, clearly here in the United States, this dude is getting protected and using taxpayer money. The media told us this, as well as the palace saying that they would not be using their titles because they're not working in capacity of, at the time, for the Queen. But is there a formal process that Parliament has to sign off on to say, yeah, no, they should not be using their titles because they're not representing the government? You would think, or one would think, documentation would be on file somewhere in a government database. All we have is to go off of the communication from the palace, of which, in the past, the palace has lied to the public, particularly with Meghan and those two invisible children. How many more excuses do we have to make for the royal family for them to finally take some accountability in what has happened over the last 6 years? A lot of this stuff could have been prevented, but they chose not to do anything, especially with the terrorist organization, the Sussex Squad. They knew that they were online threatening people, abusing people. And for anyone to say that they didn't know about these threats that were being made against them and who they were, I find that very hard to believe because the royal family has access to the best intelligence in the world. They also have access to the best security in the world. So, it's not a problem for them to be threatened by the Sussex Squad, but what about all the innocent people online who have no security that have been targeted and people have gone after them, like our own Trevor Colt? These two lowlifes have caused so many people online harm. So I find it very hard that they were allowed to use the squad and the royal family didn't do anything about it, which means to me in some way that they know what they were trying to do, which is generate all this division and hate online to have the excuse to go ahead and clamp down on free speech. As we all know that Charles is very much in support of this Agenda 2030. And the one thing that's getting in the way of that is freedom of speech and the so-called misinformation that is being put out there by his own son and his bitch wife. There was a lot that the royal family could have done about this couple, but they chose not to. They allowed them to come to the United States and wreak havoc on this country. And here we are. Now, I think that after November 5th, should, God willing, Trump get into office, we could predict what's going to happen next. I will guarantee that Harry will not stay in the United States, and we'll start seeing headlines of Harry going back to the UK, spending the holidays, now leaning on the Spencers, or that will be the headline of the day, of Harry spending time with his cousins, and we'll see a leaked photo here, a leaked photo there to show that his family on Diana's side has been embracing him and supporting him. And then slowly we'll start seeing that Harry has a meeting with King Charles, and then we'll have the Royal Rota report upon how, it was a tense meeting, but Charles is open to forgiving, even though the path may be long. There is optimism, hope, in the future for Harry to be accepted back into the family. Wait for it, folks. Then we'll start to see Harry being introduced slowly in family events, not, working royal events yet, but just putting him back in family events, like with what they did with Andrew, in allowing Harry to be with the family on Christian holidays. Because, who is going to challenge Harry being with his family for Christmas or Easter? Of course, they're going to use that as a PR moment to show how the family is united and blood is thicker than that trash out in Montecito. Now, what I say next is pure fantasy. This is me making up a story and saying, hey, this could be something I could see my fictional character, and we'll call her Jezebel, do. So for shits and giggles, in my fictional story, Jezebel is a construct of the CIA, meaning that Jezebel was created with a fake past and all the narratives that have been put out into the global sphere. Jezebel is a part of this covert influence operation that the objective is designed to drive censorship. Well, what better way to get out of this whole entire mess, as it didn't work out, than stage some type of fake death? What better way to go out in a last-ditch effort to pushing online censorship and this regulation using mental health is by making yourself be the example of that. That's all if Jezebel is this construct that didn't have a past and was created by the CIA, and the objective was to get the control back of information. Could I see Jezebel, being written into the story of going off to Israel for the next 10 to 15 years and hiding out? Sure. I could write that in there into this narrative, and then maybe her dumb husband goes back to his family and he adopts 2 kids and calls them, something. You guys can be creative with that. It's just me thinking and being creative and writing stories, that's all. But what do you guys think? How do you think this is all going to end? How do you think they're going to handle, let's say we are in the separation now, inevitable, the divorce is coming. How do you think Harry and Meghan are going to play out into the media? Do you think it's going to be nasty? Do you think Harry is going to weaponize the media like how Diana did? I think there's a lot more to come to this story. It's just a question of, we'll have to see what happens after the election. I think that's going to be the tipping point. But love to know your thoughts below. As always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Such a fraud.